The sky above Kryn 9 was a violent swirl of gray and violet clouds, heavy with storms that had raged for days. The planet was unforgiving, a place where only the strong or the clever could survive. Yet in the jagged outskirts of the human colony, two figures moved with quiet determination. They were sisters, though the world had long ago decided that the Verathi, their species, were not to be trusted. Lyra, the elder, moved like a shadow over the jagged rocks. Her long, midnight black hair whipped in the storm winds, and her amber eyes reflected a fierce intelligence that few dared to meet. Nayla, the younger, followed closely, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. She moved with a softness that belied the strength in her arms. Together they were an odd pair, one wild and untamed, the other gentle and calm, but they were inseparable. The colony had turned its back on them years ago. The Verathi elders had decided that Lyra's fire and Nayla's gentleness made them unfit for society. Too impulsive, too emotional, too different. So the sisters had learned to live on the fringes, scavenging old tech from abandoned mining stations and hunting small creatures that no one else wanted to touch. On this day, the storm had driven them to the edge of the human mining camp. Lightning split the sky, revealing the sprawling settlement of metal structures and humming machines. The colony was small but bustling, a fragile community clinging to life on a hostile world. Lyra's ears twitched at the distant shouts, miners trapped under a collapsing platform, a section of the refinery torn apart by the relentless winds. "We can help," Lyra said, her voice low but firm. She did not ask for permission. She never had. Nayla hesitated. She felt the tension in the air, the fear radiating from the humans below. They had never welcomed the sisters before, and she knew their help might be refused, but her heart would not allow her to turn away from people in danger. "We should," she whispered, following Lyra as they descended into the storm. The winds howled, tearing at their clothes and hair, but the sisters moved like dancers through the chaos. Lyra leapt over broken beams, her powerful legs absorbing the impact of the jagged metal. Nayla's hands glowed faintly as she touched the wounded, sending a gentle pulse of energy that eased their pain. Miners cried out in shock and relief as she healed bruises and stopped bleeding, her touch as soft as a summer breeze but infinitely strong. By the time the storm reached its peak, the sisters had freed half a dozen trapped miners. Lyra had lifted beams and crushed debris that would have taken several men hours to clear. Nayla had soothed terrified workers who could barely speak. Together they were unstoppable, though no one knew it yet. As the storm began to subside, the Verathi sisters stepped back, their breathing heavy but controlled. For a brief moment, they allowed themselves to hope that someone might see their worth, that someone might finally recognize them for more than their differences. But that hope was fleeting. From the edge of the camp, a group of alien leaders approached. Their eyes were sharp, filled with judgment and suspicion. The elders of the Verathi society, adorned in ceremonial markings and flowing robes, stopped just a few meters from the sisters. "What have you done now?" one of them demanded, his voice like ice against the wind. Lyra straightened, standing tall despite the storm. "We helped," she said simply. "Helped," the elder repeated, his tone dripping with scorn. "You interfere where you do not belong. You create chaos. You cannot follow the rules of our society, and now you put others in danger by your recklessness." Nayla's glow dimmed slightly. She opened her mouth to speak, to explain that their only intent was to save lives, but the words caught in her throat. The elders would not listen. Their minds were closed, as rigid and sharp as the storm winds. "We did what anyone with decency would do," Lyra said, stepping closer. Her voice was steady, but there was a fire in it that made even the elders pause. "The people needed help. We gave it. If that is chaos, then so be it. I will not apologize for saving lives." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. Finally, one elder waved them off with a dismissive gesture. "Go, leave our colony. You are not wanted here." And so, as always, the sisters retreated to the outer rocks and caves, carrying with them the mix of relief and sorrow that had become their constant companions. They moved through the jagged terrain silently, the storm now behind them, leaving a sky streaked with fading lightning. They did not speak for a long time. Lyra cleaned the mud from her arms and legs, while Nayla tended to small injuries she had sustained during the rescue. Though tired, their bodies were strong, honed from years of survival at the edge of society. They had learned to rely on each other completely. "It does not matter what they think," Lyra said finally, breaking the silence. Her amber eyes caught the last glimmers of lightning in the horizon. "They will never see what we are capable of, but one day someone will." Nayla nodded, her hands glowing faintly as she brushed a wound on Lyra's shoulder. "I hope so," she said softly. "It would be nice to belong somewhere, just once." The sisters continued their trek, unaware that someone had been watching them from the shadows of the camp. Captain Elia's trainer, a human who had arrived on Kryn 9 only a few years ago, had seen the entire rescue. He had watched Lyra lift heavy beams with unmatched strength and agility, and he had seen Nayla's gentle hands heal injured miners as if by magic. Elias had spent his time in Kryn 9 learning to survive in the harsh environment, navigating the tense relations between humans and aliens. He was practical, cautious, and above all, observant. And now, for the first time, he had seen something remarkable, a pair of beings who could change the fate of everyone on this planet if given the chance. He stepped forward from the shadows, his boots crunching on the gravel, but he kept a safe distance. The sisters had not noticed him yet. He did not intend to frighten them. He only wanted to understand, to see if the stories of the Varathi outcasts were true. "They're different," Elias whispered to himself, "but different in a way that matters." He studied Lyra's posture, the fire in her eyes, and then Nayla's calming presence. He saw their harmony, the way they balanced each other, wildness and gentleness intertwined. Unlike the alien elders, he did not see flaws. He saw potential. As the sisters reached a small cave where they would spend the night, Elias made a decision. He would approach them, slowly and carefully. The world had cast them aside, but he would not. Perhaps, he thought, he could be the first human to truly see their worth. The cave was modest, just a hollowed-out rock formation shielded from the storm. Lyra immediately began to prepare a small fire, using her keen instincts to gather dry wood even in the wet conditions. Nayla knelt beside her, focusing her energy to create a gentle warmth that made the cave comfortable despite the cold outside. "You think he will follow us here?" Nayla asked, sensing Elia's presence even without seeing him. "I don't know," Lyra said, her eyes narrowing as she listened to the faint sounds outside. "But it doesn't matter. We do what we must. If he comes, he will see what we are capable of. If not, then we keep surviving as always." Night fell over Kryn 9, and the storm clouds drifted away, leaving a sky painted in dark indigo and streaked with stars. The sisters huddled near the fire, talking quietly about survival, their memories of a time before they were outcasts, and the hope that someone might one day understand them. Elias remained just outside the cave, hidden but close enough to observe. He marveled at their resourcefulness, their courage, and their gentle hearts, and as he watched, he made a promise to himself. One day, he would show the world that these two alien girls, too wild and too gentle, were more valuable than anyone had ever imagined. For now, he stayed in the shadows, silently witnessing the quiet bond between Lyra and Nayla. He could feel the beginnings of a story forming, one that would challenge everything the colony believed about strength, kindness, and the worth of those who were different. The sisters slept fitfully that night, exhausted but alive. And for the first time in a long time, someone outside their small world had noticed them. Somewhere in the cold, dark expanse of Kryn 9, a human had seen their potential. And the future, fragile as it was, suddenly seemed a little brighter. The storm on Kryn 9 had been relentless for days. Dark clouds twisted across the sky like living creatures, and lightning split the horizon with a white-hot rage. Winds tore across the jagged cliffs surrounding the human colony, shaking structures and sending loose debris spinning like deadly projectiles. Life here was harsh, but for Lyra and Nayla, it was normal. The two sisters moved carefully over rocky terrain, the older sister leading with a silent confidence, the younger following closely, her steps light and precise. Lyra's long black hair whipped around her face, strands sticking to her mud-smeared skin, but her amber eyes were sharp, always scanning for danger or opportunity. Nayla, in contrast, moved with a gentle grace, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly even in the storm's gloom. She touched each rock and ledge with careful precision, as if the world could be soothed by her very presence. The sisters had been outcasts for as long as they could remember. The Varathi elders of their species had rejected them, claiming that Lyra's fierce spirit and Nayla's tender nature made them unfit for society. Lyra's impulsiveness had once led to small accidents in the city, while Nayla's kindness had been interpreted as weakness. Over time, they were pushed out, left to wander the outskirts where no one dared go. They had learned to survive alone, scavenging abandoned structures, hunting small creatures, and finding shelter wherever they could. But survival was never easy. Kryn 9 was unforgiving, and even the smallest mistake could be fatal. The sisters had developed skills that the colony could only dream of: agility, strength, perception, and a strange energy that flowed from Nayla's hands, healing minor wounds and soothing fear. Today, the storm had forced them closer to the human mining camp, a cluster of metallic buildings humming with machinery. Lightning illuminated workers struggling against the elements, shouts carrying across the wind. A platform in the refinery had collapsed, and cries for help pierced the roar of the storm. Lyra's ears twitched at the sound. She did not hesitate. "We can help them," she said, her voice strong over the wind. Nayla hesitated, looking down at the distant humans. They had never welcomed the sisters. In fact, most humans avoided them, wary of Varathi differences. But her heart ached at the sound of fear. "Then we should," she whispered, following Lyra as they descended the jagged rocks with the skill of those who had spent years surviving in the wild. The storm lashed against them, rain turning to sleet as it hit their skin. Yet Lyra leapt over broken beams, her body landing with grace despite the wet, unstable ground. Nayla used her energy to calm the animals that had been startled and injured by the storm. Even small scavenger beasts paused to watch, sensing her quiet influence. They reached the collapsed platform to find several miners trapped under heavy beams. Lyra's strength was astonishing. She lifted debris with ease, her muscles flexing as if the weight were nothing. Nayla moved among the trapped workers, placing her hands on bruised shoulders, and a warm glow spread outward, easing pain and fear. Miners gasped, relief spreading across their faces as injuries that should have taken hours to tend were soothed within minutes. The sisters worked in tandem. Lyra pulled heavy beams aside while Nayla provided guidance, her calm voice cutting through the panic. "Stay still. Breathe. You are safe," she murmured, her energy steady and reassuring. Even those who had never trusted the Varathi found themselves following her directions without hesitation. By the time the storm began to subside, the sisters had rescued half a dozen miners. They had endured falling debris, treacherous footing, and the constant threat of lightning strikes. And yet, despite their heroism, they knew the colony would not reward them. From the edge of the camp, a group of alien leaders approached. Their robes flapped violently in the wind, their expressions stern and unforgiving. The elders had always been rigid, and now, standing amid the wreckage, their judgment was palpable. "What have you done now?" one of them demanded, his voice cutting like ice against the wind. Lyra straightened, her wet hair plastered to her face. "We helped," she said, her tone calm but firm. "Helped," the elder repeated, incredulous. "You interfere where you do not belong. Your actions bring chaos. You cannot follow our rules, and now you endanger others with your recklessness." Nayla's glow dimmed slightly, a small frown forming on her face. She opened her mouth to explain, but the elder's eyes were like shutters, closed, unyielding, deaf to reason. "We saved lives," Lyra said, stepping closer. Her voice rang with the certainty of someone who knew the value of their actions. "If saving lives is chaos, then so be it. I will not apologize for doing what is right." The elder waved them away with a dismissive gesture. "Go. You are not wanted here. Leave our colony." The sisters had expected this. They did not argue. They did not beg. They simply turned and disappeared into the rocky outskirts, the wind pushing them along as if it were carrying them away from the world that rejected them. They moved in silence for some distance. Lyra wiped mud from her arms while Nayla tended to a small cut on her sister's shoulder. Despite exhaustion, their bodies were strong and capable, shaped by years of hardship. "It doesn't matter what they think," Lyra said finally. "They will never see what we are capable of, but one day someone will." Nayla nodded. "I hope so," she said softly. "It would be nice to belong somewhere, just once." They continued walking, unaware that someone had been observing them from a distance. Captain Elia's trainer, a human who had been stationed on Kryn 9 for several years, had watched their actions with growing interest. He had seen Lyra lift massive beams with unmatched strength and agility, and he had seen Nayla soothe injured miners with her gentle power. Elia's was practical, cautious, and observant. He had learned to survive on Kryn 9 and navigate the delicate balance between humans and aliens, but nothing had prepared him for what he had just witnessed. The sisters were unlike anyone he had ever met. "They're different," he muttered under his breath, "but different in a way that matters." He stayed hidden, not wanting to startle them, and watched as they prepared for the night. The sisters had found a shallow cave, its mouth sheltered from the storm. Lyra gathered wood and struck a small spark to create a fire, her movements quick and precise. Nayla knelt beside her, using her energy to radiate warmth that mingled with the firelight, making the cave surprisingly comfortable despite the cold outside. "You think he will follow us here?" Nayla asked, sensing Elia's presence even without seeing him. "I don't know," Lyra replied, her amber eyes scanning the cave entrance. "But it doesn't matter. We do what we must. If he comes, he will see what we are capable of. If not, we keep surviving as always." The storm had passed, leaving the sky a dark canvas of indigo streaked with faint lightning traces. Stars appeared, distant and cold, but for the sisters, they were a reminder that the universe was larger than their isolation. They huddled near the fire, speaking softly about survival, about memories of a time when they had not been outcasts, and about the hope that someone might one day understand them. Elias remained just outside the cave, hidden behind rocks. He did not move. He simply watched, marveling at the sisters' skill and the way they complemented each other. Lyra's wild energy balanced Nayla's gentleness. Their differences, once seen as flaws by others, were clearly their greatest strengths. As night deepened, the sisters finally settled. Lyra leaned back against the cave wall, eyes half closed but alert, while Nayla's glow dimmed as she rested beside her sister. They had survived another day, just as they always had, but the presence of Elias outside the cave marked a turning point they could not yet see. He had seen their potential. He had seen what the colony could not, and somewhere in the shadows he made a silent promise. He would not let the sisters' worth go unnoticed. One day he would show the colony, and perhaps the universe, that these two girls, too wild and too gentle, were capable of changing everything. Lyra stirred slightly, as if sensing a presence, but she did not speak. She trusted Nayla to sense threats, and Nayla's gentle awareness confirmed that the human had not come close. Still, the faint spark of curiosity and hope passed between them. Perhaps the world was not entirely closed to them. Perhaps someone could see them for what they were. The night grew colder, but the sisters remained warm together, untouchable by the cruelty that had rejected them. And somewhere in the darkness, Elias watched, feeling a strange mix of awe and responsibility. The story of Lyra and Naila was only beginning, and he would be a part of it. For now, the Varathi sisters slept lightly, bodies tense but safe. The universe beyond Kryn 9 was vast and indifferent, but in the cave, with the fire flickering and the storm past, there was a small sense of hope, a fragile growing hope that someone might finally see them as they truly were. And for the first time in a long while someone had. The warning sirens blared across Kryn 9, echoing through the metallic corridors of the human colony. Smoke and dust filled the air, stinging eyes and lungs, while the distant roar of engines shook the ground. The pirates had returned, faster and more ruthless than before. They came not just for supplies but for control. Their ships, black and jagged like predators in the sky, descended upon the settlement with terrifying precision. Lyra and Naila stood together atop a ridge, looking down at the chaos. Lyra's amber eyes blazed with fierce determination, while Naila's calm glow offered a steadying presence. They had trained for emergencies, but nothing in their lives had prepared them for this. An invasion designed to overwhelm both humans and aliens alike. Elias is coordinating defenses, but it's too many, Lyra said, her voice hard against the wind. She clenched her fists. We need to take action ourselves. Naila nodded, her hands glowing faintly. We can't just fight blindly. We need strategy and care. People are counting on us. The sisters moved down toward the colony, their speed and agility making them almost invisible amid falling debris. Lyra leapt across shattered walkways, her body twisting and landing without faltering, while Naila followed, her energy subtly shielding injured miners and frightened aliens alike. Wherever she passed, the panicked cries softened, replaced with hesitant courage. Inside the refinery, chaos reigned. Humans and aliens tried to organize defenses, but the pirates were relentless, cutting power lines and firing energy weapons indiscriminately. Lyra spotted a pirate squad cutting toward the storage units that housed the colony's water reserves. Without hesitation, she vaulted over crates, landing in the midst of the invaders with a roar that startled even them. The pirates aimed their weapons, but Lyra's reflexes were faster. She moved like lightning, grabbing a fallen pipe and swinging it with lethal precision. Two pirates fell instantly and the others stumbled back, giving the colonists time to regroup. Meanwhile, Naila focused on the wounded, creating safe zones amid the firefight. Her glow formed a soft dome around trapped miners and alien workers, healing cuts, bruises, and burns as she moved from person to person. Fear diminished in the presence of her energy, replaced with cautious hope. Even those who had doubted the sisters now saw their value. Elias moved quickly between the chaos, coordinating teams and directing attacks. When he saw Lyra and Naila, he realized just how crucial they were to survival. "Stay close to the civilians," he shouted. "Don't let them get cut off." Lyra gave a sharp nod, then launched herself at a pirate climbing the scaffolding above. Her speed was unmatched, her strikes precise and powerful. She disarmed one, used him as a shield to block another, and leapt down to safety, all while guiding civilians away from danger. Naila followed, weaving between injured miners, her hands glowing brighter as she healed a child scraped and bruised from falling rubble. The child clutched her arm, eyes wide with awe as pain faded and fear eased. "You're safe," she whispered. "It's okay now." The pirates realized quickly that Lyra and Naila were more than ordinary defenders. They had expected resistance, but not this. Lyra's raw power made their weapons almost useless, while Naila's gentle energy undermined their attempts to terrify the colonists. Panic spread through the invaders who had not anticipated this kind of opposition. On the ridge overlooking the colony, a pirate captain observed them closely. His eyes narrowed when he saw Lyra and Nayla. "Target them first," he ordered through a communicator. "Take out the Wild One and the healer. Once they are gone, the colony will crumble." Lyra sensed the shift in the enemy's focus almost immediately. "They're aiming for us," she said, turning to Nayla. "We have to draw them away from the civilians." Nayla nodded, her glow intensifying as she formed protective shields around workers near the supply depot. "Go. I'll keep them safe," she said. Lyra hesitated only a moment before sprinting toward the pirates' landing zone, using the terrain to her advantage. She ducked under fire, rolled over debris, and struck with precision, taking out isolated pirates one by one. Each movement was calculated, a mix of raw strength and tactical intelligence honed from years of survival outside society. Inside the colony, Nayla's presence became a beacon. Civilians and hesitant fighters alike followed her guidance, retreating to safe zones and aiding in evacuation. Her energy not only healed but inspired, giving courage to those who would have otherwise frozen in fear. Even Elias could see the effect. He shouted directions and people moved faster, trusting both his commands and the sisters' influence. The battle escalated as the pirate captain deployed heavier weapons. Energy blasts tore through structures, setting fire to storage units and scattering debris everywhere. Lyra leapt across gaps, dodging the blasts with uncanny agility. She struck down a group of pirates attempting to flank Nayla, buying precious seconds for the humans and alien workers. From a nearby rooftop, Elias watched in awe. He had trained in combat and survival, but Lyra and Nayla were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were not simply powerful, they were extraordinary. Lyra's raw, untamed strength combined with Nayla's gentle control created a balance that no weapon could easily overcome. The pirate captain grew frustrated as his attacks faltered. Lyra's unpredictable movements and Nayla's shields prevented him from executing his plan. In desperation, he ordered a full boarding of the colony's central command hub, hoping to capture key humans and alien leaders. Lyra anticipated this move. She signaled to Elias, and together they coordinated a counterattack. Using debris, speed, and precise strikes, Lyra disrupted the boarding party while Elias led a human-alien squad to intercept the remaining pirates. Nayla reinforced the wounded and blocked pathways, her calm energy keeping the group organized amid chaos. The sisters' teamwork became a spectacle of raw skill and strategy. Lyra fought with unmatched intensity, a whirlwind of motion and power, while Nayla used her energy to create pockets of safety, heal the injured, and guide the frightened through the firefight. For the first time, the colony witnessed a combination of courage and care that transcended species. The pirate captain, realizing his forces were faltering, targeted Lyra and Nayla directly. A blast aimed at Lyra's flank sent her tumbling, but she rolled with the momentum and struck back, knocking the pirate off balance. Nayla's energy flared in response to the danger, creating a protective barrier around her sister and nearby civilians. Elias fought alongside them, coordinating with precision. He marveled at how the sisters' skills complemented each other perfectly. Lyra's boldness drew attention, allowing Nayla to shield and heal. Nayla's calm presence allowed Lyra to fight without hesitation. Together, they were unstoppable. As the battle reached its peak, Lyra and Nayla executed a daring plan. Lyra led a group of pirates into a narrow passage, forcing them into a bottleneck where their numbers counted for nothing. She moved with such speed and strength that one by one, the pirates fell. Nayla reinforced the defenses around the civilians, her energy glowing bright enough to catch the attention of anyone nearby, drawing them to safety. The pirate captain, seeing his forces decimated and his plan failing, realized he had underestimated the sisters. He tried to retreat, but Elias and a small squad of human fighters intercepted him. Lyra and Nayla converged, their combined presence enough to intimidate the remaining invaders. The pirates had no choice but to flee, their ships lifting off in a chaotic retreat. When the smoke cleared, the colony was battered but intact. Humans and aliens alike emerged from shelters, exhausted, dirty, but alive. The rescued civilians cheered, their voices carrying over the remnants of the battlefield. For the first time, the sisters were at the center of admiration, their bravery and skill undeniable. Elias approached them, his chest heaving from exertion. "You too saved everyone," he said, his voice filled with awe. "I've never seen anything like it." Lyra wiped blood and dirt from her face, her amber eyes scanning the aftermath. "We did what had to be done," she said simply. Nayla offered a small smile, her hands dimming in glow as she healed a few final cuts. "People were in danger. We protected them, that's all." The colony's leaders, both human and alien, had gathered near the main platform. They watched silently, their earlier judgments challenged by the undeniable reality before them. The Varathi sisters, once outcasts, had proven themselves not just capable, but essential. For Lyra and Nayla, the recognition was new and unfamiliar. They had never expected praise, only survival. Yet, seeing the gratitude and awe in the faces of those they saved, a quiet warmth settled in their hearts. They had always known their worth, even when no one else did. Now the world could see it too. Elias stood beside them, feeling pride and respect for the sisters. "You've shown everyone what you can do," he said. "Your strength, your courage, and your care. It's more than anyone expected." Lyra glanced at him, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. "Not everyone sees it yet," she said, "but perhaps they will, perhaps now they will." Nayla reached out and touched his arm lightly. "It's not about recognition," she said softly. "It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves." The sun began to rise over Kryn 9, casting a warm light across the battered colony. The storm was gone, replaced by a calm morning and a sky streaked with orange and gold. The sisters stood together, watching the new day unfold. For the first time in a long while, they felt a connection not just to each other, but to the world around them. They were still different, still outsiders in many eyes, but they had proven that their differences were strengths, that courage and kindness could coexist in a way that changed everything. The battle had ended, but the story of Lyra and Nayla was only beginning. The colony now knew that two sisters, too wild and too gentle, could alter the fate of many. And in the quiet moments before the day fully awakened, they stood side by side, ready for whatever challenges awaited next. The morning after the battle, Kryn 9 felt almost peaceful. Smoke still rose in thin streams from damaged buildings, and scorched earth marked where the pirates had landed, but the air was quiet for the first time in days. Survivors moved through the settlement, tending to the wounded, repairing equipment, and comforting each other. The colony had survived, but it had also changed forever. Lyra and Nayla stood on the highest ridge overlooking the settlement. The sun rose slowly behind jagged cliffs, painting the horizon in soft gold and orange. For once, they did not feel like outcasts. The colonists, both human and alien, had witnessed their courage and skill. Their actions during the pirate attack had proven that they were more than different, they were invaluable. Lyra's amber eyes scanned the colony below. "They've seen us now," she said quietly. "Whether they admit it or not, they've seen what we can do." Nayla's silver-blue glow flickered in the early light, a subtle sign of her calm energy. "Yes," she agreed. "And some of them, they might finally understand. But understanding doesn't always mean acceptance." The sisters descended toward the settlement, keeping to the shadows at first. They did not rush. They did not demand recognition. They had learned that trust and acceptance took time. Yet, as they approached the main platform, they noticed clusters of people whispering and pointing in their direction. Human workers nodded respectfully, some even bowing slightly as they passed. Alien leaders who had once dismissed them now stood quietly, observing with measured caution. Elias was waiting near the command hub. His uniform was smudged with dirt, his hair mussed from exhaustion, but his eyes were bright. As soon as he saw them, he moved forward. "You did it," he said simply, voice full of admiration. "You saved them all. Everyone is talking about it." Lyra gave a small nod, not used to praise but understanding its meaning. "We did what had to be done," she replied. Nayla's hands glowed faintly as she healed a minor burn on a human worker who had been caught near the flames. "People were in danger," she said softly. "That's all that mattered." Elias smiled, a mix of relief and pride in his expression. "What you did matters more than you realize. The colony owes you more than just thanks." For the first time, the sisters felt the stirrings of belonging. They were no longer simply survivors, hidden in the outskirts. They were protectors, leaders in their own right. But the recognition came slowly. Some aliens still whispered about their wildness and gentleness, the traits that had once led to their exile. Humans, too, were cautious, unsure if they could fully trust beings so different from themselves. The colony's elders eventually approached, their expressions neutral but their voices careful. The lead elder, a tall figure adorned with ceremonial markings, spoke first. "We saw your actions," he said. "It is clear that your abilities are significant. Perhaps we judged you too harshly." Lyra held her head high. "We did not ask for your approval," she said. "We acted because it was necessary." Nayla stepped forward, her energy glowing softly. "We only want to help," she added, "to protect those who cannot protect themselves." There was silence, and then a subtle shift in the crowd. Miners and workers who had been saved began to step forward, voices quiet at first but growing in confidence. "They saved us," one said. "We would not be alive without them." Others nodded, voices joining in a chorus of gratitude. Even some of the more skeptical aliens could not ignore the evidence. The sisters had saved countless lives, organized defenses in chaos, and inspired courage in those who had previously doubted them. Their worth was undeniable. Elias placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, grounding her amidst the sudden attention. "This is just the beginning," he said. "People will come to understand your true value. You've proven it today." The sisters exchanged a glance. For years they had only relied on each other. Recognition from others was new and strange, but it was not unwelcome. For the first time, they felt the possibility of a future where their differences were celebrated, not condemned. In the following days, the colony began to rebuild. Humans and aliens worked together, guided by a renewed sense of cooperation inspired by the sisters' actions. Lyra and Nayla were no longer relegated to the edges. They were active participants in planning and defense. Lyra led training exercises, teaching others to move with agility and precision in dangerous terrain. Nayla guided medics and volunteers, showing them how to remain calm under pressure and use energy to stabilize injured individuals. Their influence spread quickly. Even those who had once doubted them began to respect their judgment. The colony realized that the sisters' unique combination of wild courage and gentle care was exactly what they needed to survive on Kryn 9. One evening, as the sun set in a brilliant display of orange and purple, Elias approached the sisters again. "There's something I want to offer," he said, his voice low and earnest. "A chance to join the human expedition team. We explore uncharted planets, help those in need, and I think you two belong with us." Lyra considered the offer. Exploration had never been part of their lives. They had survived by necessity, never by choice. But the idea of belonging, of using their skills to help others on a larger scale, stirred something deep within her. Nayla's glow brightened as she thought of the possibilities. "It could be a new start," she said softly. Elias nodded. "It would be dangerous, yes, but it's a chance to make a real difference, not just survive, and I can't think of anyone better suited for it than you." For a long moment the sisters remained silent, looking out over the colony they had saved. The wind carried the faint scent of smoke and ash, but also the promise of new beginnings. They had faced storms, rejection, and danger, yet here they were, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. Finally, Lyra spoke. "We'll go," she said, her voice steady. "Not because we seek glory, but because we can help others who cannot help themselves." Nayla smiled, her energy radiating warmth. "And because we've learned that sometimes being too wild or too gentle is exactly what the world needs." Elias grinned. "Then it's settled. Tomorrow we prepare for departure." That night the sisters walked through the colony, now quiet under the blanket of stars. Children waved at them, minors offered nods of respect, and even skeptical elders observed silently, acknowledging their strength without words. For the first time, Lyra and Nayla felt the sense of belonging they had longed for. They returned to the ridge, sitting together in comfortable silence. The sky was clear, stars twinkling like distant fires. The air was crisp and clean after the storm, carrying the faint hum of the colony's machinery and the distant laughter of those rebuilding their lives. "It feels different," Nayla said softly. "Yes," Lyra agreed. "People see us now and perhaps they will remember what they've seen. But even if they don't, we know who we are. We know our worth." Nayla reached out and took her sister's hand. "We always have each other," she said, "and that's enough." Lyra smiled faintly, squeezing her sister's hand. "For now, yes, but soon, perhaps it will be more than enough. Perhaps we can help even more people in ways no one imagined." They sat in silence, letting the calm settle over them. The events of the past days, the storms, the battles, the fear and courage, had changed everything. The colony had survived, the invaders had been driven away, and the sisters had found recognition and the promise of belonging. And yet beyond Kryn 9, the universe stretched endlessly, full of dangers and mysteries. Lyra and Nayla, once outcasts, were now prepared to face whatever came next, side by side, stronger together than anyone could imagine. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if acknowledging the arrival of two beings who were too wild to be tamed, too gentle to be feared, and perfectly capable of changing the lives of everyone around them. Tomorrow, they would leave Kryn 9 with Elias and the expedition team. But tonight, they allowed themselves a rare moment of peace, knowing that they had finally found a place where their differences were not only accepted but celebrated. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often harsh, but for Lyra and Nayla, it was now a place of possibility. And for the first time in their lives, they felt truly seen, not as outcasts, not as anomalies, but as individuals whose courage and kindness could shape the future. The sisters looked at each other and smiled. Too wild and too gentle, they had survived the judgment of the world, proven their worth, and found a path forward. And somewhere deep in their hearts, they knew this was only the beginning of the story they were meant to write.